Well, hello and welcome to FAC Calgary, the online campus. My name is Cory. I'm one of the pastors here, and I'm really excited today that we get to spend some time talking about mental health. How are we going to cope and kind of get through this holiday season? I have a very special guest with me, Dr. Marlis Krueger. She is a psychologist of almost 30 years and clinical director at the family psychology place right here in Calgary, Alberta. Now, Dr. Marlis has many areas of specialty from anxiety, depression, OCD, to family and parenting and problems from learning disabilities, autism, concussions, dementia, so lots going on there. And she's also taught graduate classes at UFC, and a guest speaker at many universities and consults to numerous organizations. So we are so excited that we get to have her here today to talk to us about mental health. And thanks again, Marlis, for coming and offering your time to us and knowledge to the FAC community.
Oh, you're very welcome, Cory. Thanks for inviting me to talk here today.
Yes, so glad to have you with us. And this Christmas and holiday season, it's going to be very different for a lot of us. Some of us will be alone, perhaps. Maybe large family gatherings are kind of like out of the question now. People are trying to figure out what to do. And I feel like many relationships are strained as everyone is reacting to COVID, lockdowns, vaccines differently. So there's so much kind of going on. And it feels like there's a bit of a frenzy, maybe you can call it that, happening. And our mental health is in need of some serious attention, which is why I'm really grateful to have you here today to talk with us, maybe offer us some insights, maybe tips on how we can, kind of make it through and thrive. So thank you for having us. We have had you on here at FAC before, but things are a little bit different now. So where do you think people are now compared back to, let's say, in March, kind of when this all started happening?
That's a good question, Cory. We really are in a different place as people. So when we talked in, I think it was April and May that we talked and did those pieces before, the main feelings that people were having, the state that people were in, it revolved around anxiety, fear, stress, almost like a traumatic fear response. No one knew what was happening, and there was just a lot of anxiety about it. That's really shifted now. So we've kind of become accustomed to it. We know what to expect. It's here we go again now that we're locked down again. The predominant emotions now that people are feeling, and that then escalated with the last, we'll call them lockdown measures, would be feelings of sadness, despair, and hopelessness. So it's a real shift from the anxiety, fear, stress to now sadness, despair, and sometimes to the point of hopelessness for people. So that's the main shift that's occurred in people's mental health over these last, say, 6 months or so.
That's a really great distinction. So what do we do? I mean, I think, like, how do we kind of get through some of this hopelessness, these feelings that life is different, or it feels like, kind of like a hard blow to plans, to family gatherings, like everything is going to be different. Like, how do we find hope, when we're feeling hopeless, right?
Yeah, it's hard, dealing with, in some ways, I always think that dealing with anxiety, fear, stress is easier than dealing with feelings of sadness and despair. Those feelings of sadness and despair tend to be, I guess, a little bit less fleeting and a little deeper to me. And some of the symptoms, I guess we could say, of it would make it difficult to work our way out of those things. So it is I think in some ways it's more difficult to deal with those feelings of sadness and despair. I think as we enter this Christmas season, it's okay. I think it's necessary, not just okay, to accept that things are different. To really just, you know what, this is going to be a different Christmas than any Christmas you've had before, and to just accept that. And normally with acceptance is a process. We try not to rush it, but given that Christmas is approaching with a date, and then people have traditions on certain days that they're used to, it's more important to just, I guess, embrace that acceptance more than we would normally push it, to just say it's going to be different this year. That's all there is to it. And I'm not even going to try to make it the same. All we're going to do is try to get through it. If a person is really feeling that sadness and despair. So to accept it is the starting point. Accept that it's going to be different. I'm not going to try to make it the same. And there are no rules for well, within reason, but essentially whatever I have to do to make it through, I'm going to do, if a person is in that deep state of sadness and despair.
Yeah, that's so good. I feel like, as we kind of enter into this, new reality, like I actually feel myself like kind of going through that as well, like acceptance. I think it is, and I think it's different for everyone, like how long it might take to accept a new reality. I think some of us deal with change in ways, some deal with change better than others, but I think we do have to come to this place that it is different for this season. Maybe that's a good word to hold on to. It is a season that our whole world is going through this pandemic, and we're all kind of trying to process it in our own worlds. But it's a season right now that we're faced to acknowledge that there is something different. And I think, like, even for my own family, where I think we're just trying to process now, like, how can we make this better? How can we make the most? I guess. I don't know if everyone's doing that, but I do want this to be something for our family. I want to be able to look back and say, like, wow, that was actually a really great Christmas season. Very very different. Maybe not what I wanted, but being able to find those moments of joy, of happiness, being able to reflect and see the ways that God has moved. Because I think that's something that we need to do. I don't.
Yeah, and it's going to be different for everyone, right? Some people might be looking for, how do we make it a great Christmas anyway? And other people are going to be, how do I make it through this, right? I really don't know what I'm going to do. I think it's going to be pretty bad. So there's such a range of where people are, just given their situation, right? I think it's going to be really different for a family like yours with young kids at home, where there's lots going on and you have more than one or two people there, than it is for, say, a couple at home. They're empty nesters, no one's there, compared to a one or two seniors at home by themselves, no one's coming to visit that day, and thoughts of, what if this is our last Christmas? So it's going to be really different for everyone. And I think one thing that's important is the definition of how do we get through this successfully or okay, is it's going to be different for everyone based on what is the situation. So if we look at, first of all, I guess the easier things, right? The people who are, how do we make this fun and meaningful anyway, right? Say take a family like yours, kids are at home, you're going to have a group of people anyway, maybe just without the usual big family gathering, but you still have a gathering with more than one other person there and no one else there. I think the thing there, accept it's different, But you can also make it a little bit fun. You can do, for example, like a COVID time capsule. Remember this Christmas, remember this year, and we're going to pull this out 10 years from now. So I think for families with younger kids, it can be a bit of an adventure that this is going to be a different one, but in a bit of an adventurous type of way. And then also to add in some pieces, how can we help out the people around us who are going to be struggling today? So, for example, if there's parents that you would normally be going to visit, what can you do to still be with them in that day and be there for them, whether that's a video phone call or a drive-by parade as you walk down the sidewalk, or going for a walk with them, or building a snowman in the front yard like you had done and mentioned. Those things are good as well. So you want some things to find the meaning that you always find in Christmas. And then you want to find some adventure in it and embrace that, because it is pretty different. And then how can you help out other people a little bit as well and serve others? So that would be a way I could see families with kids at home, where they're not dealing with the same loneliness maybe that older people or people who are alone would be feeling.
Yeah, and so I'd love for you to speak maybe to the people who are alone, maybe some of the empty nesters that like that's, I mean, to say like that, could this be the last Christmas? You know, like that's those are powerful words to say.
Yeah.
And I know there are people who are feeling those words. So I would love for you to, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I can, because I think this is where it's going to be far more difficult this Christmas, as well as this winter, right? So you hear it from, you know, how we talk about that sandwich generation where you have kids, but you also have parents. The empty nester generation, which I'm in, we have kids, but they're sort of on their own now. So we have our own losses around, we're not going to see them at Christmas. But then we also have the parents that we're worried about as well. So it's still a sandwich generation, just a little more spread out. I think a couple things are important here. In general, when we're working with feelings of sadness, feelings of depression, feelings of despair, we want to do things that make us feel better, do anything to increase our happiness, even if it's just for a moment. And we want to avoid things that make us feel bad and intensify any feelings of sadness, despair, loneliness, hopelessness, and so forth. And that's where I was saying there really are no rules. Whatever it's going to take to get through those moments of more intense sadness and despair, it's okay to go with it. So if a person, and like, honor your feelings in that. So if you think that putting up Christmas decorations will make you happy, put up the Christmas decorations. If you think it'll make you sad, don't put up the Christmas decorations. If it'll make you happy in the moment, put some up. If it starts to make you sad, stop. If it makes you sad to have something else, something out, put it away. So to really honor those feelings in the moment, and to follow the feelings or follow the actions, do the things that increase feeling okay or make you feel better in the moment, and avoid things that create feelings that are more difficult. So even, for example, if you're watching a movie on TV as a means of distracting yourself and keeping busy, if that movie is making you feel sad, stop watching that movie, right? Pick the ones that are just going to be easy, not bring out a lot of feelings. I like those Harlequin type movies on the Woman's Channel, those Christmas movies. They're just feel good. The problems are never too big. They're just very light. They're always going to have a happy ending. Those are the types of movies maybe we can stick with. Or simple Christmas movies, even the cartoon ones. If it makes you feel better, fine. If it makes you remember Christmases past and you start getting nostalgic and you start getting sad, stop watching it and pick something else. And that would be even to the point of, if a person wants to even kind of go through the motions of, I'm just going to pretend it's not even Christmas. I don't want my decorations out. I'm going to order out that day. I'm not going to do anything different. That is okay if that's what you have to do to feel okay and not intensify those feelings of sadness and despair. It's okay. So basically, whatever is going to make you feel better and is making you feel better in the moment, do. And whatever is making you feel worse, sadder, more hopeless, more in despair, avoid doing it. Those would be, I guess, just some general themes of advice as then we start to look at what are some more specific things that we can do.
I love that. Honor your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's such a good word for all of us, because I mean, our emotions are specific to us, and I think being aware of our emotions is very, very healthy. And so I love that you're just like, give yourself permission to turn off the movie, give yourself permission to maybe not put up decorations or put something out or put something away, and just realizing that this is something that you need to be aware of, and do things, you know, that obviously that I know that make you feel good, or that spark joy in your life. And I think it's okay to take a step back if something is, you know, is not making you feel good, right? Like, I think, because I mean, this whole topic is about mental health, right? We're trying to address our mental health, right? And so, and I think just that word of honor your emotions and be aware of your emotions, and is such a good word for us, because I think we can all kind of practice that in the days ahead, and give yourself permission to not feel like you have to do something just because you do it, even though you're feeling terrible about doing it, I guess.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
There are no rules. Honor the emotions. It's going to be different, and it's like, how do we get through, right?
Yeah.
So let's think about a couple specific things. I think it's important to have a plan for people who know that those couple days, especially around Christmas, or days when typically they would be doing something that gives them a lot of meaning, are coming up. It's important to have a plan. So even as we go into Christmas week here, if you think of it that way, we can start thinking about what are a few things that will give us meaning and make us feel good. And it's going to be different for different people. So for me, for example, I'll be tuning into a Christmas Eve service. That will give me meaning and it'll make me feel good. For other people, they probably might do that as well. Some people might choose not to do that because it's going to bring up some harder feelings for them for whatever reason. So it's almost like people who, have you heard of a blue Christmas, where there's been a death in the family and now you're going into this Christmas season for the first time after a death? It's a little bit like that usual Christmas service can sometimes be difficult. And so there are churches who have a blue Christmas service for people who are going to find kind of that typical Christmas service too hard. So think of a few things that give meaning and try to do those. It might be getting a couple gifts for people and making sure that they get to wherever they are so that they can open them. It might be setting up some phone calls, or even making a list beforehand of who am I going to phone that day, even making plans with them. What time am I going to phone? Almost like a bit of an appointment. One opportunity is that because we're not going to be occupied all day with the same people in our houses, maybe it gives people a chance to connect with more people that they typically wouldn't be connecting with by phone or by video. But again, if it makes them feel better and doesn't make them feel worse. So I think if meaning comes from connecting with people at Christmas, prepare and plan by making a list, getting those phone numbers together, and perhaps even setting up some times for when are we going to have that video chat, or what time should I give you a call that day. Almost like you're setting up a bit of an appointment book for yourself for the day. If meaning comes from helping others, you know, I know some people go and volunteer on Christmas rather than doing things on their own. They might go downtown to the Mustard Seed and help with music and serving the meal on that day. um, then it's like, how else can we do that if that's what gives meaning? And it might be building snowmen in different people's yards. If you know some seniors in your neighborhood, it might be walking around and waving to people through their windows. It could be making some pictures to put outside your house just to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and remind them that there is an end to all of this coming. We are now starting that tunnel. It's going to be a long one, but there is an end to that tunnel now that a vaccine is on the way. So those things can give meaning as well. But I think it's important to actually do some planning and thinking for what is it that gives me meaning? What are a couple small things that I can start planning for now so that those things are set up beforehand? And some of it could be food as well. If a lot of Christmas traditions have to do with cooking. So same thing. It's like, hey, am I going to order out? Am I going to have a meal? Am I going to make things for people beforehand and drop them off? Maybe I'll make things on the day and drop them off for people to have at their dinner, even though we're not having a dinner together, right? Maybe a family that normally would get together but can't, and yet is in close proximity, can make things in their own houses and drop them off at each other's houses, and then include them each other in the meal. It might be that when a person is eating their own meal, they kind of light a candle around the table to remind them of the family members that normally they would get together with. But again, if it makes the person feel worse instead of better, then no, you wouldn't do that. But thinking of what is it, just a couple things that can give meaning, that are Christmassy and create that Christmas feeling, where we try to capture, that will make us feel better and not worse. Start thinking of those now and have a plan for how are you going to do them, but also have a bit of a plan for, if this starts making me feel worse instead of better, what am I going to do? So if the plan was to cook a turkey dinner for two, and then that day you really don't feel like it, don't do it. If it's going to make you feel worse, so it's a turkey, it'll be okay. Order out, right? And then you get a visitor from Skip the Dishes coming to your door. But go with your feelings in the moment as well. I think another thing to really plan for is, if in those days that you can anticipate they're going to be more difficult, right? So for most people, it'll be Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day for this week. Those are the ones where usually we have some pretty set traditions or things that we typically do on those days. It's important to have a plan for what are we going to do to occupy ourselves so that we don't start living in our heads and ruminating, and to plan for that. And by plan for it, I mean think about it and even write things down, because in the moment when we start feeling down, it's hard to activate a plan. So we want to almost have like a little flow chart. If I start to feel this way, here's what I'm going to do. If I start to feel this way, here's what I'm going to do. So some of those things on that list would be things like, I guess if you start to feel extremely bad, if you're worried that, I'm not sure I'm going to make it through this, if that's where a person's thoughts are going, you want to have a number for a distress center that you've already written down for yourself. You want to have a suicide hotline that you've already written down for yourself. You want to maybe have an appointment for counseling booked for immediately following, so that you kind of even have that to wait for, that I will get through this, I'll be okay, and then I'm talking with someone in 2 days. So I think if you think it could be that bad, have those plans, have those things written down for yourself, and by all means, reach out if something starts to happen. There are phone centers that are going to be open on Christmas. If you know that, it won't be that bad, But how do I get through it if I just start to feel despairing, right, or sad? We don't want anyone sitting there crying on Christmas. If you start to head down that route, one of the best things to do is probably distract yourself. So if you can feel that starting to set in, immediately, what are you doing that's making you feel bad? Stop doing it, start doing something else, and try to distract yourself. And have a list again of the things that you can do, and have things there ready for yourself to do. So maybe it's putting a puzzle together, and the puzzle is all there ready for you to pull out. You've already kind of thought about it. Maybe it's a crossword puzzle. Maybe it's reading a book. Maybe it's taking a bath with music on. Maybe it's watching a movie. In all of those things, though, we want to do things that, I guess, make us feel better and keep our emotions lighter rather than more intense. So again, those movies that don't bring up nostalgic feelings that make us feel sad, but those lighter action, cartoon, Harlequin, Christmas, those types of things that just I guess get us out of those deeper emotions. That's okay, right? Watching the telephone company commercials that bring out the tears, put those things on mute if they come on. Just don't watch them. It's not going to help the way that we're feeling now. But have a plan, make a list, put it in writing, have things there for yourself. And if you start to head down that sad despair route, try to head it off by doing something right away, and have that list of things that you're going to do to distract yourself. Another thing that's going to be really helpful is something physical. So get out of the house, go for a walk, go on your treadmill, go downtown and take a walk where there's people around and you can at least be nodding and say hi to people as you walk around. Go get a coffee if places are open. Go pick up some food in a restaurant that's open for delivery that day. Go into 7-Eleven and buy a bag of chips or something and say hello to the guy who's working behind the counter and have a chat. Something that gets you out and just breaks whatever you're doing, breaks that mood, will help as well. So those are some things you can do to distract yourself, to break the mood, to do something just to lighten up your own feelings. So important would be make a plan, put that plan in writing, have things there, and try not to let yourself start going down that route, and back it up as soon as it starts to happen.
Well, thanks again, Marlis, for just sharing your wisdom for us. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave us with as we finish our time here together?
I guess I'll just summarize a little bit. Accept that it's going to be different. Find a couple things that give you meaning, but keep them simpler if you have to. Take it easy on yourself. No rules, no pressure. If something makes you feel better, do it. If something makes you feel worse, sad, more despairing, nostalgic in a way that makes you sad, stop doing it. Have a plan for how you're going to distract yourself on the day. Have a plan for how you're going to connect with people on the day. There's no rules. You're going to do what you have to do to get through it. It will be okay. And if you have to keep saying that to yourself that day, or write it down in a note to yourself beforehand, do that. But it will be okay. We're going to get through this Christmas. It's very different. For some of us, it will be an adventure. For some of us, it will be difficult. And we're going to get through this winter and be okay as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. And thank you so much for your time and sharing with us once again. So I hope that we'll be able to do this again in the future. I'm always grateful for our time together and just being able to glean some of your wisdom and even apply it to my own life. So thanks again for joining us here, Marlis. So glad to have you a part of our community here at FAC.
Oh, you're very welcome, Cory. Thanks for inviting me anytime.
All right. Thanks, Marlis. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay, bye, Cory.